Hello, everybody. I'm Meredith, and coming to you with the Brahma Kumari series that we've been doing for quite a while right now. And it's all about spiritual conversations or conversations with friends. And I'm delighted to do it because I think that meditation and spirituality is a lot more than just sitting around and meditating. Of course, that's, the basis of what we do, but it's also about connecting to ourselves, connecting to the community, which we've been doing for many, many years. The Brahma Kumaris in Miami especially have really thrived on working with the community and having all kinds of programs with the community. So I'm very delighted tonight to introduce you to a newcomer to South Florida, only just a few months, but the things that Bari Newport is doing is she's already, making an impact on South Florida when it comes to just connecting, and I see it as doing things that matter. And so Bari is the artistic director of GableStage, which is located, I don't like to say it's at the Biltmore, right, Bari? It's so good to have you here. And it's a theater that's been around for many, many years. If any of you out there have, many of you I know out there, especially in the Coral Gables area, though people come from all over to this theater. It's an acclaimed theater. The work that's been going on as a result of Joe Adler, who was the artistic director for how many years, Bari? And welcome to the program. Many, many years, over 20 something years. He was.
Joe was artistic director for 23 years.
And unfortunately, he passed away. He was ill for quite some time. And the baton has been passed to Bari Newport. And I'm just delighted to get to interview you. And I want to let me say a few things before we talk about you. You are, you are now the new producing and artistic director of GableStage. And as I said, one of the longest running and highly acclaimed theaters in South Florida, with, I think, over 60 Carbonells, the esteemed Carbonell Awards over the years. But you come to us from the Penobscot, you can say it.
Penobscot, yeah.
Penobscot Theatre, far north from South Florida, located in Bangor, Maine, where you were the artistic director there. And also you served as producing artistic director for 9 seasons. Oh, you did that with this theater. But previously you were the artistic associate at the Alliance Theater in Atlanta, artistic associate literary manager at the Pasadena Playhouse, and associate director of the Florida Repertory Theatre. So can I say you have been around when it comes to theater? You have quite a lot of experience.
I've slept around.
Well, we're happy to have you here. And I want to start out by saying that I was there for opening night, and the play was just unbelievable. It is right now running. The Price, if you can see the playbill. I love playbills. I still am happy to see a playbill. I know there might be debate about whether they will continue, but they're great. To sit there with a playbill and know you're there to see the play. So I want to talk with you about, I know that you are really thinking about changes and working on changes. So how do you see the theater changing? And I'm not saying that you're making drastic changes. It's, theater is theater. But what is your vision for GableStage?
Well, first, before I start changing things, I want to try and figure out what has been going on, which has been rather challenging, just not only with Joe's death, which happened in April of 2020, but also with the pandemic and just pause, and not just pause, but the company really being kind of in a stagnant place for 19 or 20 months. And some people have said, yeah, but haven't all the theater companies been like that? And no, not all the theater companies have lost their, not just leader, but like lion of a leader. I mean, Joe wasn't just, artistic director, he was the company. And it's been a huge loss. So the company has had to find its true north again. And that's like the first step. The first step is making sure that the audiences that have been with the company are invited back and know that we're alive and well and ready to take on the future. I think I was hired to scale the company up, and that means, I think that means to bring it to the national level that the company deserves to be recognized on and has deserved to be recognized on for so long. And because I've slept around, I do know the national landscape pretty well, and I've always admired GableStage. I've known GableStage since I was in my early 20s, and when the position came my way, I just had to throw my hat in because it was so important to me on a very, very personal level that GableStage continued the work that it was doing, not only in South Florida, but nationally.
Well, that's really well said. And I'm just wondering though, what was there one thing that you just said, this is where I have to be now? Because it's a long way from Bangor, Maine, though you were in different areas. And I was just wondering, was there something that really, really drew you or said, I need to, make this change in my career, in my life?
Well, just to bridge into the conversation that I think we're entering into, when I came down here with my husband in February of last year to make sure that he was as excited as I was about such a change, I was the president of the board walked me around the Biltmore pool and said, Esther Williams swam here. And when I flew back, when I flew back to Maine, we had just bought a house, my husband and I. We bought a house on January 1st, a little farmhouse. We were this close. We were like two days away from getting chickens. Like, because I was like, all right, we've been in Maine almost 10 years. We might as well like totally do it finally. And then by the second week of February, I knew I was coming here. But what I did when I came back to Maine, because I had a company that I had built over 9.5 years and an idyllic life that I loved, but something about GableStage, and it was something about Joe and the work, the provocative work and the quality, the artistic excellence that the company was known for, just kept really gnawing at me. And so when I came back from Maine after visiting the Biltmore, I did three things. I hired a tarot card reader. I did some heavy duty meditation, and I hired a medium. And the tarot card reader said, you're going. There's nothing you can do about it. You're going, which I knew. My husband knew. Everybody knew. But I, just to have it defined as one's destiny made it all the more real. Sometimes you don't listen to yourself. It takes an outside force. The meditation brought me to this vision of doing an Esther Williams pool play, which turned out to be our splash event that we opened our season with synchronized swimmers and a pretty big kickoff event. I'd never hired synchronized swimmers before.
Oh,
but,
wow. Yeah.
So, and then the medium, which I've never done before. I've never hired a medium before. I asked Joe, why me? And he said, because you have balls. And that was it.
That was it. That was it. Joe spoke to you. I think that's really, really interesting, because when I met you that night, opening night, and we got to talk outside where you were talking to everybody, really connecting with everybody outside the theater. And I just immediately felt that, even though this might all sound strange to you, I didn't know, a meditation center, I felt that you would understand, that you would get it. And I want to say that, we just had a brief conversation right before the program, and you were talking about, the spirituality of actors, that to be an actor, you have to have some sense of what's going on inside. If you could expand on it.
Yeah, for me, it's all about the creative spirit, and whether we call that God or whatever you want to call it, it's the thing that all humans have. And humans are, as far as we know, the only animals that mindfully create. And I think that what I'm constantly in search of, certainly as a certainly as a creator, but also as a producer. But as a creator, I'm constantly in search of my own creative spirit. And to me, I've always been absolutely obsessed with how the whirling dervishes at the Wailing Wall are able to release themselves, how playing scales over and over and over and over on the piano, you're able to release yourself, how rehearsing lines that aren't your own over and over and over allow you to connect with your own creative spirit, your own God. And so that's kind of the goal. The Greeks believed that when you put on a mask, Dionysus would literally transform you and speak through you. And that's the idea, is that we're able to transform through godliness. So that's kind of the whole thing, isn't it?
Oh, well, that's very, very powerful. And it's just making me think, about how I've always felt about actors. I've always been touched by this kind of a spirit within them, something, that I've always felt, even without talking with them, that they've done the work. In order to really connect to the character, you have to have done the work yourself, right? You can't just read lines, memorize them, and that's it.
Oh, I mean, that's just like a tiny bit. I mean, actors don't have an instrument. We don't have a violin. We don't have a paintbrush. We only have this thing. And it's not just the outer being, it's the inner being too. I mean, losing one's imagination is a terrible, terrible thing. The 9/11 papers started with, we never could have imagined. And that's our job, is to be a center for imagination. What makes a community a community? You have to have a place of learning. You have to have a place of law. Having a center for imagination is pretty high up there. The Europeans knew it. They knew it because they put theaters in it was interesting being in New England, deep New England, like I was. I mean, I'm not from Maine, but what I learned was that the theaters were built on top or next to or adjoining the city halls. That's how important a place of dialogue, a place of gathering, and a center for imagination was. It was as important as law.
I think, what you just hit upon is that place of gathering. And I'm just thinking even of, because I hadn't been to the theater in a long time, like most of us, right? During COVID, and being at GableStage, afterward, I felt connected to everybody in the room and to the actors. I felt this sense of, that some people, there's so many movies out there and everything's on, online and everything, but there really is nothing like the gathering and the experience of being in a theater, is there? And when you walk out,
being in a darkened room with strangers, having a shared experience is the same thing as going to church.
Interesting, very interesting. And there's something about the energy of being, especially GableStage. What I love is, because people might not, if they haven't been there, it's not a big theater, which makes it even more special. Because if you go into a gigantic theater that's more like an auditorium, it might be harder to experience that. But there's something about being in the GableStage over many theaters that I've been to, where you do feel like you are there for something really special. And for me, it's always about learning. What can I learn? What can I, my husband and I would come to your theater, so many times over the years. And I can remember after we left, we just wouldn't stop talking. We couldn't stop talking. Did it mean this? Did it mean that? And there were some pretty controversial plays, really made you think a lot. So I was wondering, do you expect that kind of controversy or
well, the mission of the company is to produce theatrical works of artistic excellence for South Florida audience, which confront today's issues and ideas. So I should hope that good, bad, or otherwise, it leaves you something to talk about. People don't have to like everything. In fact, I resist people saying I liked it or I didn't like it. The idea, half the fun is figuring out what worked about it, what didn't work about it. And, it's so interesting. Humans are so protective of stories.
Yeah.
We
Uh-huh.
get so kind of crazed when something isn't right. Theater, is all about the study of the human experience.
Mm.
And so that's the whole thing. And that we play it live in front of you. So you can't turn away. You can't
Mm.
turn it off. You have to face it. You have to confront it.
And sometimes
And
it can
hopefully,
be difficult, Barry, because some of the plays that
of
I have,
course,
they can be very uncomfortable. I mean, I'm
of
not saying
course,
a Gable Stage, but plays that I have attended where there are uncomfortable issues, but something's going
life
on
is
with
uncomfortable.
life is uncomfortable, isn't it?
Life
Yeah.
is uncomfortable. Yeah, especially all the stuff that's still going on now, how the scales have been peeled from our eyes, right? I mean, the last 19, 20 months have been an awakening for large swaths of our society to really look in the mirror and deal with a lot of uncomfortable truths. And that's what the theater is for.
How have you personally grown over the last year and a half? What has happened to you in terms of your own internal growth?
I lost 30 pounds and I gained 25.
So that's not so,
um,
yeah.
um, my own personal growth.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that I have
Did you have a
I don't know
moment?
that I have perspective.
Yeah. Any kind of something that you just said, like you said, people have awakened to something. Many people I've spoken with realized they were just running and doing and going and going and going, and that the pandemic kind of made them stop and learn how to be alone and how to just not
Yeah,
do something every second.
that's all
Yeah.
true. I mean, I bought this little farmhouse and looked at myself in the mirror one day and was like, wow, you look totally different. And it was like, oh, you're happy. But because I had like very little stress, even though I was running Penobscot Theatre Company is a larger theater company, and we kept all of our employees employed the entire time. And we also produced a full season, and it was actually a really exciting, invigorating year for us, all because I refused to when I found that my own creative spirit was withering, when I was like trying to like figure out how to do a play and the show must go on and fighting a virus and fighting the government and fighting unions. And when I looked around and saw all of my creative friends were also withering, I was like, no more, no more. We have got to figure out a way to create, to do what we were put on earth to do. And so we did. And that was extremely empowering. But what I'm still like wrestling with is, even though I did find huge elements of peace that I can honestly say I'd never felt before in my life, and living in Maine, I really got to work with the earth in ways that I never had before, in terms of gardening and composting and just living and appreciating Mother Earth. But when I took this position, I knew that I was once again stepping into a place of high stress and giving. And so what I'm working on right now is trying to figure out a way, even understanding that the next 2.5, 3 years are going to be all about energy going out, and trying to like figure stuff out and meet a ton of people. I've got to figure out how to check in with myself. I find that time is going by so much faster than before the pandemic. I don't know. Do you find that?
Yeah. Well, I think the world is moving so quickly now. Every moment, it's like we don't know what's going to happen from moment to moment. We think, okay, we're safe, everything's okay. Now all of a sudden there's another virus or what, it could be anything. I
Yeah,
think really working on one's inner self, and that's kind of what we teach with the Brahma Kumaris, on the keeping stable and not worrying about anything. It'll come. I mean, I can see your whole career has, been about growth and evolving, and at the right moment, whatever you need will come to you. I think there's such good energy in that theater from the past.
there is.
Having
There
known
is.
Owen, how he was very spiritual. He really was in his way. In a
Yeah.
And I feel that the energy that's already been created and that can draw upon, and you will continue to move with your own creative energy, which you're obviously, really on that, on that track, is going to make all the difference in the world. Uh, do you
Yeah.
feel in a way that people really do want things that are deeper today? They do want to think more. They don't want just, things that are on the surface. And there's good movies, I know there's a lot of great movies on Netflix and Amazon, but there's nothing like that theater experience. And that to me is what it's all
Yeah.
about.
My mission in life is to show people how the cake is baked, because for so long we've kept the curtains drawn pretty tightly. Don't look behind the curtain, don't look behind the curtain. Because producing theater is very dirty and hard, and so much manpower and expense. And we just want you to be able to be transported into the story and not worry about the rest of it. But if you don't know about how it's done and how it's built and how that story in all of its glory or not has made it to the stage, I don't think that people can fully appreciate it. And if they don't fully appreciate it, they don't support it in the way that it needs to be supported. And then the whole art form, and I think this last year has really shown how deeply fragile arts and culture is. And theater is not entertainment. It's not like the government does not look, theater is not part of like the same group that represents casinos or
Mhm.
theme parks.
Mhm.
Theater is
Mhm.
part of arts and culture. It's part of museums and ballet and opera, because it has the same mission as every other nonprofit, and that is to serve its community first and foremost. It's nonprofit because it's not supposed to be doing plays that are going to make money. It's supposed to be doing plays that are going to be vitally important for the health and welfare of its own community. That's what a regional theater does in this country. That's different from a commercial theater. Very different, very different. And the support that communities show for their theaters has to be, people have to understand that that's the purpose of the theater, is to serve its community, not do plays that are necessarily going to make a lot of money. It's a different mission.
It's absolutely different, but more needed than ever, isn't it? Because all of these other things might be entertainment, like you say, amusement parks or whatever, or whatever's out there, races, but they really do not nourish the soul. Would you say that theater
Exactly.
does nourish and nurture the soul?
Absolutely. And the theater in Maine, the theater in Maine had almost a directly opposite mission. Its mission was to inspire a lifelong passion for the art form, which is a mission that speaks directly to the heart. And that theater is really serving the masses. It serves a large geographic area, and Maine doesn't have that many people in the whole state. So it serves many, many, many hours in every direction in Canada. This theater, is part of an ecosystem of other theaters. And so this theater has a mission that really speaks directly to the head, to confront today's issues and ideas. So to me, I don't know whether people want to think, or I think people want to feel. I think that the idea of being delighted is worth a lot, because it takes us out of ourselves and lets our imaginations and our minds just like blossom. But in terms of stories that speak directly to the head first and into the heart, I mean, that's how we change, by learning about ourselves and each other and questioning our own behaviors, by looking at somebody else act in a certain way.
Bari, the more I listen to you, the more I think you could come teach some classes for us, at the meditation center. You have that sense of what life is all about, and how to really create meaning in one's life. And you can't do it without having that time to reflect or think or see things that really inspire you. And if you keep watching the news all over and over again and seeing all the problems in the world, I feel that's something that really, really stifles us. And just seeing the world in a hostile way, or that there's, the polarization that's taking place. But then you go to the theater and you walk out and you're thinking in a different way. People of all cultures come to the theater, right? People of different political viewpoints, different, everything. And they're there together with, like you say earlier, that shared experience. I
Right.
just want to do a couple more questions about yourself. I assume that you started out as an actor, right? Is that usually the way? Like, were you,
I,
you were younger,
I
you
don't
could,
know. I don't.
or whatever, that you knew you wanted to be an
Yeah.
actor, or
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people start there because they don't know what else there is.
Mhm.
They don't know that first of all, it's a business. So all the same positions that, IBM might have, like, it's a business.
Yeah.
But you also don't know all the many, many, many positions and people and talents and craftspeople it takes to bring a play to fully realized life. I will say that, the beauty of theater is that anybody can do it and you can do it anywhere. You certainly don't have to go to a theater in order to. I mean, I've put on plays in bathrooms, in parking lots with car lights. I've put on plays everywhere, because if you create your own work, you'll always work, has been
Mhm.
I don't know, a tenet of mine
Yeah.
forever. But yes, I am I mean, my degrees and my life up until a certain point was all about the studying of acting technique, which has always been extremely interesting to me on a spiritual level.
Mm. Well, I can see that you're going to thrive here in South Florida, where we have so many cultures and lifestyles, and more than ever, just people who want more in life. They are looking for an experience. They're looking for something different, and there's so much commercial stuff out there that, again, it doesn't nourish, it doesn't nurture,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I'm really excited to see what you will be doing. Well, we mentioned the price, right? We mention, but I'm not sure that we said anything about the play itself, which is a classic, and this you kind of took over after
Yeah,
Chandler passed,
yeah,
right? Yeah, you want to say
yeah.
a couple words about the price?
Sure,
And he's one of my
sure.
favorite, I mean, directors, since writers, playwrights, since
Yeah.
since
So it's
I've
an
been.
Arthur Miller. This is an Arthur Miller classic.
Yeah.
This play I actually didn't know before, which I'm kind of ashamed to say, but I'm not an Arthur Miller expert,
Yeah.
but I don't know, I missed it. Um,
Okay.
but it's a play, it's called The Price because it's about the choices that we make in life and the price that we must pay for those choices. Every choice has a price. It's a family drama of operatic scale, and has some pretty heavy duty, meaty themes in it, themes of time, themes of what is reality and what is an illusion, themes of memory, um, and of course, the burden of stuff, what to do not only with literal stuff, but with the baggage of the past.
Yeah, everybody had baggage. And there was also, as you say, a lot of baggage on the set. We could talk about the sets, like you say, the work involved in putting that set together, and the wonderful Miami actors that you have. And I've seen, I think maybe most of them over the years in Miami, I think. I mean, I know the names, and some have actually been on my programs on Art Street that I had at WLRN for many years, so I recognize them. But I'm always moved by how a few actors can come together for what is an hour and a half, 2 hours, and create something so amazing, on that
I know,
stage. It
it's
just,
incredible.
yeah. And no play is the same. No, it's not like a movie that you see and, that you see it again. It's exactly the same actors doing the same thing because it's a movie. It's, recorded, but going to the theater, it's never the same, for
Well, it's
one,
never the
right?
same, for 1,000 different reasons, but it's never the same in part because of the audience. And of course, the audience plays you can't do a play in a vacuum. It's
Mhm.
a tree that falls in a forest. Does it even happen? If there's no audience, does it even happen?
Right.
Right? So, and audience psychology is fascinating, fascinating study within itself. What one brings with them to the theater, how is that different from what your neighbor is bringing with them? And then collectively, what does that do to the story that you're experiencing together?
Yeah, yeah.
Very
Well,
interesting.
it's very interesting. I'd like to know more about that in the future or at some
Me too.
point. But Barry, I don't want to take up any more of your time because I know you are a very, very busy artistic director trying to do everything, and you will. I can see that you will accomplish a lot in South Florida. You were ready to come to South Florida, and I think South Florida is definitely ready to have you here. And
Yeah,
I'm just thrilled to interview
together
you.
we'll do great things. You know, it's
Yeah.
not my theater company, it's our theater company. So together we'll figure out the path forward.
It's a pleasure getting to interview you, Barry. And I want to say
Thanks.
again that I've been talking with Bari Newport, who is the artistic director, the new artistic director at GableStage at the Biltmore. And it's not exactly in the Biltmore, it's next to the Biltmore. Very easy to get to, right? Is it? I
In
mean,
the
it's,
Biltmore, it's in the Biltmore, it's in the stables.
yes.
The theater is located in the old stables of the Biltmore.
Oh,
And yeah, I mean, I like to think of us as part of the Biltmore. It seems like a
oh,
pretty,
okay. We'll say at the Biltmore. I'm sorry, but
yeah,
it's very easy to
yeah,
get to. I think that's my point. It's very easy,
yeah.
easy to park, easy to access. Everything is easy, and if you've never been there, it's a really wonderful place to go. And
Yeah, it's intimate.
yeah,
It's a one of a kind, intimate experience. I mean, I don't know any other theater that's in a location like this. It's amazing.
no, it's really great to get to interview you. And I thank you so much for taking the time. Again, you're busy,
Thanks.
but it's wonderful to meet you. So,
Thanks for
um,
having me.
and thank you so much for joining us out there. And I also wanted to thank Mita, who is our technical director on most of the programs that we do here at the Brahma Kumari's Meditation Center, and hope you'll join us again soon. Thank you.